All righty. Buenas tardes, buenos dias, wherever you're joining us from. Welcome to our event today. My name is Gabriel Esparza. I'm the Associate Administrator for the SBA's Office of International Trade. And I would like to welcome all of you to another SBA Elevating Small Business Series event. Today we are celebrating National Hispanic Heritage Month and the contributions that we make to the U.S. economy. As a reminder, this event is being recorded and it will be made available after the event today. We are in the third week of National Hispanic Heritage Month. This is sort of an odd month in that it's not just the calendar month. It goes from the middle of September to the middle of October. So we are in the third week of that. And today it is my pleasure to lead a discussion with two very phenomenal Latino small business owners. Before we get to them, I want to introduce myself a little bit, and I'll share a little bit of background with you. As the Associate Administrator for International Trade, I lead the SBA's efforts to expand U.S. exports by providing expertise and technical assistance to small business exporters, helping them gain access to foreign markets by offering grants and other trade financing solutions. We actually do three things. So we offer education and technical assistance, we provide financing and grants, and we also work to represent small businesses as we open up market access for small businesses around the world. I have been, prior to my service in government, an advisor, an investor, and an operator in a variety of entrepreneurial ventures. I've led private sector businesses spanning both large corporations and nimble startups. And I did spend about 13 years at American Express as Vice President of Global Business Development, and also worked for half of my time there in the small business group. So I've seen all aspects of small business formation and global understanding, and have a perspective that helps me better understand what small businesses do. And of course, as a Latino, as a Mexican American on my father's side, I appreciate the contributions of our community in the federal government, in business, as consumers, and for all the things that we do around the country. So we recognize the tremendous impact that Hispanic entrepreneurs have had on the U.S. economy. Not only that, but we also celebrate the many ways that the Hispanic culture has influenced and contributed to American society. So a few statistics for you to consider. According to the Joint Economic Committee Hispanic Entrepreneurship and Business Brief, nearly 1 in 4 new businesses is Hispanic-owned. In addition to that, nearly 5 million Hispanic-owned businesses in the United States contribute over $800 billion to the American economy annually. There are more than 300,000 Hispanic-owned employer businesses located across all 50 states and the District of Columbia. And the Hispanic employer businesses employ about 1 million workers with more than 100 billion in annual payroll. So, in addition to that, let me mention an important and interesting consumer statistic. You might have heard this recently published statistic, which is that the Latino consumer, all 60 million of us in the United States, there are more than 60 million Latinos in the United States, according to the last census that we did in 2020. The 60 million Latinos in the United States equate to 2.8 trillion in GDP. So if the Latino community of the United States was its own country, we would represent the 5th largest economy in the world. That is absolutely incredible and goes towards the power that the Latino community has and the power that we as consumers have, we as small businesses have, and we are an important and growing part of American society. As we celebrate National Hispanic Heritage Month, we continue to support American small businesses in leveraging opportunities as our economy steadies and investments are made. We also know that there is more to be done, and under the Biden-Harris administration, we are on a path to tackle inflation and lower costs for American small businesses and their employees. At the SBA, we are committed to working to ensure that we meet small businesses where they are, putting the customers first and leveraging technology to provide them with products and services they need to start, grow, and be resilient. The SBA helps small businesses connect to capital, revenue growth opportunities, and a network of advisors. and of course during times of tragedy, as we are seeing here in the aftermath of Hurricane Ian in Florida and throughout the Southeast, that our disaster relief services are important as well. The growth in entrepreneurship during the pandemic was significant, and the SBA will continue to help new firms to thrive and grow and help others to expand by providing resources that are customer-centric, tech-forward, and equitable. Providing emerging small businesses with the needed tools to help local economies thrive is a priority of the Biden-Harris administration and our Latina SBA Administrator, Isabela Casillas Guzman. So I'd like to start by introducing you now to our two panelists, Eduardo Ortiz and Alejandro Ramirez. I'm going to ask that they spend a little bit of time introducing themselves, and then we'll get into some questions. So, Eduardo, if we could start with you, and you could tell me about yourself and your business, and we'll turn it over to Alejandro after you. So, Eduardo, let's start with you.
Thank you so much, Gabe. So let me tell you a little bit about Coforma. So, and then I'll tell you a little bit about myself, and then pass over to Alejandro. So Coforma is a digital services firm. What that means is that we work with government and private sector organizations to craft creative digital solutions and build technology products and services to help improve people's lives. We have honed a modern, agile, user-centered approach that, first of all, elevates human needs through thoughtfully designed and considered systems and products. And as the CEO, it's my job to build the pathways across the diverse portfolio that we have, which includes healthcare, veteran services, immigration, voting and civic engagement, and access to equity and justice focus areas with partners in the space. Those are both our customers and others in the space who can provide services to ensure that we bring the best possible solution to those that decide to work with us.
All right, well, that's Conforma, and I want to dig into that, but I also want to hear the Eduardo story too. So tell me where you're from, tell me your background, give me a little bit of Eduardo.
Fair enough. So I'm Eduardo. I hail from the Dominican Republic. I've spent most of my adult life working with technology. At some point, I decided that being in the military was the right move. I wanted to give back to others and open opportunities. And for the past about 12 years, I have been working in this space called civic tech, which I've learned in the past couple of years that's the actual name. When I started, I didn't know that's what it was. And it's a space where a number of organizations bring services, solutions, and products to work with other organizations that are providing direct critical services to people, whether it's in the immigration space, veteran services space, healthcare, you name it.
All right, and so you mentioned the military, so tell us when you served, where you served, how long you served, all of that.
Yeah, I joined the Marine Corps in 2008, left in 2016, served mostly in the United States with some stints overseas.
And now Conforma is where? Where are you located? It's a digital company, so you can be anywhere, I presume, but where are you located?
We are a distributed company. Our headquarters is in Washington, D.C., in lovely DuPont Circle. However, we have colleagues and coworkers all over the country. If I'm not mistaken, we are in 32 different states, just nearing that 100 number of employees. But I spend most of my time in the DMV, the DC area.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for your service. We'll dig into much more about Coforma. But viva la República Dominicana, mientras tanto. All right. Alejandro, let's turn it over to you. Before we get into Universal Spartan, which is your company, let's hear a little bit about the Alejandro Ramirez origin story. So give us your story.
Okay. Well, I first want to thank God, my entire family, and of course the SBA administration who has empowered me and my company in so many ways. And again, thank you for having me on here. My name is Alejandro Ramirez. I was born in Medellin, Colombia, South America, and I came to the United States when I was 8 years old. I remember when I did not even know how to speak English, and I still remember my friends throwing a American football at me, and the first thing I did was like threw it right on the ground and started kicking it like a soccer ball. After high school and a semester in college, I went to the military because I wanted to pay for my own school. I thought that was the right thing to do. But once I really enjoyed the military, once I got in, because I saw that the esprit de corps, the camaraderie and the leadership, just like Eduardo was talking about in the military, that made it a career for me. And then also after I made it a career, I retired out of the military 22 years. Once I retired, I started a new endeavor to be an entrepreneur, of course, and to open up my own business, Universal Spartan LLC. I wanted to create a business model that I could spend more time with my family because, being in the military and all that, it's kind of rough, trying to be with the military and the family at the same time. So I wanted to create, a business model that I could spend more time with them, and also to build a lineage for them. Here it is, a Hispanic veteran business, and now this lineage will always be there. So what is Universal Spartan? The mission of Universal Spartan, of course, is to provide responsive and complete contracting solutions to the federal government, corporations, domestic, foreign, installation and defense industry. We offer tactical IT, medical, and electrical and industrial equipment to ensure mission success, operational efficiencies, and cost savings for our customers. We are like a one-stop source and solution for the federal government. We provide the right product, the right reason at the right price. We also have a general service administration schedule, which is where all the federal government can go online and buy products at a fair and reasonable price, and makes it buying easy and efficient to the government buyers. We're a certified veteran-owned company, a minority-owned company, and Hispanic. We're also an Inc. 5000 company, and now a Veteran 100 company. And then now here it is, the SBA asked me to be on here to talk a little bit about my business, and also talk a little bit about different things that goes on.
Well, Alejandro, I appreciate all of that introduction. Let me just ask you, you said you came from Colombia to the United States at 8 years old, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And where did you grow up then, in the US?
Yeah, then I grew up, I came to Miami. My dad used to work for the American Embassy, so he decided it was best for us to come to the United States. And then from there, we went from Miami and then moved to Orlando. So I was raised in Orlando. Went to college, went to high school there, went to college for a semester, and then decided that, the military was what I wanted to do.
And now Universal Spartan is where? Where do you live now?
So Universal Spartan is in Vine Grove, Kentucky. That's where it's at now.
Very good. Because I will tell you, and this is, so common amongst Latinos, for immigrant population, like that first generation that's coming to the United States, whether it's from the Dominican Republic, Colombia, Mexico, wherever, just in our English versus Spanish linguistic abilities, it's always interesting to hear how much language acculturation and language process happens. And if I'm not mistaken, I could swear I could hear a little bit of a Kentucky accent out of you. Right. So you have a Colombiano with a little bit of a Kentucky accent. I like that. That's good. That's good, Alejandro. Well, thank you as well, Alejandro, for your service to the country and your lengthy military record. It seems that both of you now have taken that and spun that into being entrepreneurs, right? All of these skills of self-reliance, of teamwork, of camaraderie that you learn in the military, you've now turned into becoming business owners. And so we'll ask you more about your business along the way, but I thought we would start a little bit by acknowledging what the last couple of years has meant to this country, let alone the world and humanity, with the COVID-19 pandemic. And so first, let me say, not only to the two of you, but all of our listeners today, that for anybody who has suffered personally, their familias, their friends, their loved ones that might have been directly impacted by the illness, we send our best and our thoughts are with you. Of course, for Latinos, we know that our community was impacted in a way that was more severe, more challenging than the rest of the U.S., in that we often find that Latinos are serving in frontline businesses, those critical essential workers. And so therefore our rates of illness and the impact on our businesses was more common and more severe. And so I would ask the two of you, and maybe Eduardo, we can go back to you. Tell me what life has been like for you and your company, Coforma, over the last few years.
Yeah, Gabe, thank you for that. I think that, even before the company, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that, the pandemic has impacted everyone, from family units to our circles of friends and coworkers, and that building up into the businesses themselves. So I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge and thank my family and my friends and my coworkers who enabled Coforma and myself to be here sharing with you all today. I think that there have been 2 points that I've been able to ascertain that the pandemic has been critical in the ways that it impacted. The first and foremost is the financial impact to small businesses, or to businesses in general. Many businesses are still struggling to survive today. Based on the domain in which they operate, the impact has been different. In our space, in the technical, IT, digital services space, the impact has been different than other businesses who are out in the field, if you will, doing the work. So businesses that were in the construction space, or that were in the sanitation space, or that were in the critical care space, the impact to them is something that I personally am unable to speak to, other than to acknowledge that it's been absolutely insurmountable in a lot of cases. And I think that because of that, we need to just be conscious that the pandemic has not impacted everyone in the same way, that not all of us are in the same footing. Some of our businesses were remote by design, remote first. So when the pandemic became known and acknowledged for businesses like Coforma, we didn't actually struggle to develop the infrastructure, to develop the capability and the policies to enable our team members to be able to do work. There are a lot of businesses where the business margins themselves are very, very limited, who were affected because folks were directly impacted by COVID-19, and that has led down to changes in how businesses staff and how businesses calculate the risk of doing any one project in order to move into what I think is the second area of impact of the pandemic, which is the employee experience. Now we are all very conscious, or should be, and some of us are being, of what it is that we are asking our employees to do, and what is it that we are willing to do to help our employees ensure that they can be safe, and that should something happen, that we can provide for them. Because the idea of, as business owners, as responsible business owners, to merely saying, you're going to do this job, you're going to be paid, I'm going to be paid, but if you get sick, that's on you, that's just not a good way to do business. And I'm a huge fan of the adage that a rising tide benefits all. And I know that I just completely blundered that phrase. I'm just gonna go with it.
But the point here is your company is already virtual, correct?
It was from the beginning.
Right. So your challenge as leading other employees is that they were already virtual, but obviously they needed to tend to familia, they needed to take care of their situation, and maybe where they were working virtual wasn't, maybe they were working out of a Starbucks or something, right? Now to be able to have to work from home, that's a different story.
Right. And that to us, it didn't matter, because we built a culture of care during the pandemic that strengthened our commitment to people. And because of that, it helped us utilize it as a lens to understand what did we need to do then in the services and our own IT capabilities to enable our team to work from where they could in a way that enabled them to also be safe and to also care for their families. But not just that, with in the same vein of giving back to others and helping others learn, we started sharing the ways that we worked with our partners to help them accelerate their ability to now provide better services and capabilities to their own customers, improving their employee experience so that their customers could still have access to those critical services.
I will not expect an answer to this question, but I just will wonder out loud whether during some of the last 2 years you also worked from the beaches of the Dominican Republic. I don't want to know the answer to that one, but let's see. Alejandro, tell me how the last couple of years has been for you, your familia, and your company.
Well, again, thank you, Gabe. I first want to talk a little bit about the different, how it impacted different businesses, of course, and how it affected me a little bit too as well. So I think there was 3 things that I really saw. Employment was number 1. Businesses started laying off employees, as everybody saw, but they adjusted this by having, like, for example, one employee do different tasks, whether it's good or bad, but they adapted to it. Financial stability, of course. Businesses looked into different SBA options that they had, for example, loans, grants, and also reaching the banks and getting line of credits, which of course, Universal, Spartan, went into that. The big thing that I had, and I'll talk a little bit about it again, is the supply chain disruptions that business had. They had to look at different areas to manufacture, go to different countries, and then also they had to communicate with the end users on the effect of the supply chain disruptions and then the new lead times they had. So for example, they had a lead time of 10 days. Now they went to a lead time of 60 to 90 days or even more. But at the end of the day, all these businesses, they adapted. So for example, like me and Eduardo, we understand it's like we go into combat, they give us an operation order, they give us the mission, everything. But guess what? Once you go into combat, you don't know what the enemy's doing. So you got this plan, you got to throw it out and you got to adapt, because that's the only way that you can survive. Yeah. So for example, my business, we had to adapt in many ways. We are a business that we do a lot of sales, direct sales. We go see our end users, the military, the federal government. We go see them. We go to trade shows. So we, like you were talking about the virtual stuff, we had to go from not being able to get on these bases, not being able to talk to these customers directly, and then now we had to go virtual. But it was kind of the weirdest thing that happened with my business during this time, because yes, we had to go to virtual, but then all of a sudden I was starting to get calls nonstop on my phone. I started getting all these emails. And so what was happening is the end users were like, hey, Universal Spartan is a reputable business. They've been doing this for a long time. They got a great past performance. Instead of getting all these other vendors that we don't even know know him. We can't even meet him. We know the Universal Spartan, and he did great work in the past. So now let's reach out to him, of course, to get these COVID items, which we sold before, and to get other products. So for example, it was just like one of those things is like now, you know, the independent contractors that I had, all that stuff, you know, they were getting emails, they were getting phone calls because it just went to Universal Spartan. We did great. You know, we did business with them. They did a great job. They got a great past performance. So now let's just reach out to them, and we know that we're going to be good. So that's what happened with my business.
So that meant you had to learn how to operate in a virtual way, that whereas before you were used to going to trade shows, you were used to going on bases, you were going into government buildings. Talk to me, Alejandro, just about, you know, I'm assuming we've come out of that somewhat so that you can now go do stuff in person.
Yes.
So talk to me about the current environment for you. What is the current environment? You mentioned a little bit of supply chain challenges, but what else is going on in the current environment for you?
So the current environment, of course, now everything's opening up. They have more trade shows. Independent contractors can go on the bases now, talk to the end users. So now we're getting that credibility back. We're getting more customers as well. So it changed from like what we did before to something new, you know, and then now going back to what we did before. So now we're taking both of those things. Of course, you know, instead of driving, you know, 2.5 hours or 2 hours to go to a military base, maybe we can talk to the end user online, or maybe he wants to talk to us online over the phone, because they're having the same issues as well. So, you know, the perspective of like how Universal Spartan to how it had to adapt, and now going back to that, I mean, it's great. So let's talk a little bit about the supply constraints. So with Universal Spartan, you know, we were able to get products out, no disruptions or anything like that before. Once COVID hit, you know, everything happened. So we had to communicate with our end users a lot more. We had to tell them, hey, look, you know, I know you need this product in 10 days, but here's what's going on now. We can't, you know, get you this product into 90 days. So of course they're like, hey, you know, we really need the product, but yes, we understand what's going on. So we tell them up front. They'll say, hey, we need the product in 10 days. We reply back, it's like, we can get you the product, but now it's going to take 90 days. So it's really up to them, you know, what they want to do. But most of the time they know that they can't, you know, they're having a hard time getting it, and they know that they would rather trust Universal Spartan, that they've already done business, and then just wait that little time, you know, wait that little longer.
Got it. All right. So that's great. Obviously there's, you know, we move out of the COVID pandemic in terms of being able to get back in front of people, go to trade shows, get out on the road. But, you know, there are other circumstances right now. You mentioned supply chain. You know, there's other challenges, and this is perhaps no different than any other time. Like there's natural disasters, there are things in the economy, there are things overseas. So, you know, this goes towards being resilient in our businesses. And so, Eduardo, if I can turn back to you for a second and simply ask, what does it mean to be a Latino business, a Hispanic business? And is that something that you carry as an identifying trait? Is it something you try to exude in the work that you do? Is it actually a marketplace and a set of consumers and customers that you try to pursue? What does being a Latino small business mean to you?
Yeah, that's a great question, Gabe. I think that it is impossible for me to not show up as a Latino in anything that I do. Through the work that we've done in the employee experience for Coforma, we ask our team members to show up authentically, and my not showing up as a Latino just would not fly. So first of all, what you often see is my passion for doing the work and doing the work in a good way and in the right way. Second of all, what you see is my unrelentlessness, my being unwilling to just give up because something is hard. I think that growing up in the Dominican Republic and growing up in Hispanic communities, it was ingrained and it was expected that you would just do what you had to do in order to make sure that you could move forward. So that's something that I bring to everything that I do, and I show up in that same way in the way that we work and where we work. So one of our practices at Coforma, our focus areas is immigration, and it is with the express intent of helping organizations at the governmental level, usually the federal government, but also organizations in the nonprofit space, provide better services to immigrants and to those that are seeking immigration services. Because to me, that's part of who I am. It is part of what I need to do in order to pay it forward, to enable others to achieve what I've been able to achieve, which they should. We just need to be able to create the paths by which they can get there.
And just so we can have a little bit of flavor on that, what are the immigration services that Coforma provides? Is it consultation? Is it what is it that you're doing there?
Thank you for that clarifying question, Gabe. So Coforma does not provide immigration services. Coforma provides digital transformation, IT, digital services, software engineering, research and design services. It just happens that some of our customers are in the immigration space. So we work with those customers who provide immigration services to help them improve their policies, to help them improve their technology, to help them improve their customer experience, so that the people that are trying to get services from them have a better experience in doing so.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification. All right, Alejandro, same question to you. What does it mean to be a Hispanic small business? Is it something that you carry as a proud mark of identification? Is it a set of customers that you pursue? I know in your case, you also do some exporting and international sales. Does that mean you focus on Latin America? Tell me about what being a Hispanic small business owner means to you.
Well, being a Hispanic business owner, of course, like a lot of Hispanics that's been here, it's one of those things that you can actually, relate to like everybody that's on here. But again, being a Hispanic business owner has helped me in so many ways. So, for example, we got our minority-owned business with the SBA. And we work with different organizations here in the state of Kentucky. So some of them, of course, Robert Coffey, he's helped me out with getting my 8A, Sherry Guilford and Pamela Pearson, which has helped me with those minority-owned contracts and the Hispanic-owned contracts that were out there that I probably could have never reached them. So the SBA has helped me out in so many ways of, getting those contracts that I couldn't get before. So it's been amazing, getting that minority-owned, the Hispanic-owned business. Of course, because of course there's so many barriers that are out there for a Hispanic-owned business. I mean, a lot of them, that I've even experienced. Of course, I joined the military, so I learned English and went to college and high school and stuff like that. But I mean, some of these people, they come here, they don't even know how to speak English. So now that's that barrier of trying to learn everything that goes on there with the, English, the Spanish and all that. Also collateral value, limited credit history, the English proficiency that I was talking about. And of course, with the government contracts, I mean, it's kind of like intimidating sometimes even to do those contracts. I mean, I can just see being Hispanic coming here and trying to deal with those government contracts. But again, I'll talk about probably later down the road that, there's people out there that will help you with that. Of course, the Procurement Technical Assistance Centers and of course the SBA will help you with those contracts.
So it sounds to me like there's a number of programs that you believe your company has benefited from because of your status as a Hispanic small business, let alone a military veteran, etc. But in this case, because of your status as a Hispanic small business, you have been able to take advantage of certain government programs, government contracts that have provided new opportunities, new revenue and growth opportunities for your company, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
And you mentioned the 8A program. Help our audience understand a little bit what 8A is, if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, so 8A is a program that the SBA has that, of course, you have to apply. It's really extensive, so you do have to reach out to the SBA because the SBA will help you out in, of course, whatever city you're in or state you're in. Of course, Kentucky has helped me out in so much. I mentioned some of the people that helped me out, but there are contracts out there just for minority-owned businesses that are out there. You still have to compete against them. But still, now instead of competing against all the small businesses, now you're not competing against millions. You're competing against maybe hundreds or maybe less than that. So it's just a great, like I say, the field that you can look at that now you're not competing against all these businesses. Now you're only competing against some, which are, of course, with the minority AA.
All right, so Eduardo, let's flip back to you and a related question just on government contracting, the opportunities that you have as a Latino small business. Like, how does that work for you and Coforma? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, though. I think you're still on mute. There you go. Yep.
Are we good now?
Yep. Go ahead.
We're really good at technology, let me tell you. Just unmuting. So as Alejandro was sharing, Coforma is also an 8A certified company. The 8A program, as Alejandro was saying, is a program from the SBA that provides firms that are socially and economically disadvantaged, led by individuals that are socially and economically and socially disadvantaged, to have access to this program in order to compete in the marketplace. And the marketplace is vast. Alejandro spoke earlier about how Universal Spartan has a GSA schedule, or a General Services Administration schedule. So this is a way in which the government buys a lot of the services. So Coforma also has a schedule. Ours is in the IT space, often called the IT 70 schedule. And what that does, in combination with the business development program, the 8A program, is it enables Coforma to compete for specific contracts that others may not be able to compete against. So it limits the pool from thousands to maybe tens. So it enables us to now have access to potential capital and potential work that in other cases we would not have the same resources as a larger company to compete for. So to me, that's one set of ways in which being Latino and being certified as 8A by the SBA has enabled us to make a mark in this space and to show that we are able to bring just as good, if not better, services as some of our competitors and friends in this space who are not led by folks that look like me.
So the federal government spends around about $600 billion a year in goods and services. This is going to be construction contracts. It can be buying IT services. It can be buying equipment, computers, phone, like whatever it is, 600 billion in total. And there are these programs that both of you have been describing that allow for historically underrepresented and underserved communities to have access to this $600 billion worth of spending. So the question for both of you, and let's just stick with you for a second, Eduardo, here is, how did you find out about these programs? Did you set out when you started Coforma to say, I want to go directly into government contracting, or did somebody tell you about it? Give us your journey on that regard.
Yeah, of course, Gabe. I mean, like everything in life, it takes a village. Myself and Coforma, we've been advised by some of our friends in the space for years. I first heard about the AA Business Development Program through a former colleague who is now with the Department of Commerce, Mike Palmer. Then I was pointed in the right direction to learn about the 8A program and what it meant, and what getting certified as a services civil veteran owned small business meant by a friend who now leads the Digital Services Coalition, Tracy Walker. As I was trying to figure out, should establishing my own company be the thing that I want to do, or should I just go work for someone else? I recall having coffee with a good friend now who leads a very successful company, Greg Gershman, the CEO of Ad Hoc. Then having walking coffee conversations with Rohan Bube, the CEO of Nava, another very successful digital services firm. And I could keep naming names. I could keep naming organizations. The bottom line, Gabe, is that at every single point, people stepped up to help, and the same happened at the SBA. I know that Alejandro called out some of the folks with from the SBA office in Kentucky. Same thing happened for us. Lee Avila out of WMATO, the Washington metropolitan area DC office, was critical in getting us to where we are today. And Ashley Axios, my business partner, myself, have been so lucky that literally the community continues to rally around us in order to help us be successful. And that's now what we are trying to do as small business owners that are maybe 2 or 3 steps more advanced than others, is turn back around towards others and create that space, create those services in those moments where we can help others learn from our mistakes, take advantage from the lessons that we have learned, and do the things that we did better, easier, faster, much more profitable.
That's right. We have to take care of one another, mentorship, and takes community, as you said. So Alejandro, for you, same question. Did you set out on this government contracting journey from the very beginning? How did you find out about it? And oh, by the way, are there costs associated with it? Like, do you have to pay a fee to be a part of the program? Tell us about your experience and what you encountered there.
No, I'm laughing a little bit because what you said about how did I want to do this? I have no idea, none at all. So, but the weird thing about it is, and I'll talk about, is like I actually did it when I was in the military, but I really didn't know. So, after serving in the military for 22 years, I know I wanted to be an entrepreneur. That was the big thing. So, but I also wanted to have a business that I could just spend time with my family. So I created an online business. I thought, having an online business, put all the products on there, I'd be a millionaire. Well, it didn't work like that. So, so it was rough. It was hard. And then, of course, one of my fellow veterans is like, "Hey, Alex, it's like you retired as a, operation officer in the military. You worked on a lot of these contracts when you were in the military, because we were the end users. We were buying all these products that I sell now." So he told me about it, and then all of a sudden I just saw my niche. I saw, wait a minute, this is something I can really do. So I went over there. I contacted the SBA, went to the Boots to Business program that they had, contact other SBA programs, the SBDC, which is the Kentucky SBDC. They helped me, start my business. And then all of a sudden I saw the relation. It's like, hey, look, this is all these contracts are on all these like web pages and all that stuff. If you're certified, you can go out there and you can be a vendor to get these contracts. So I contact the Kentucky PTAC, which is the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. And like you were talking about, how much did it cost me? Zero, nothing.
Yeah.
These were already funded programs by, the nation, of course, the SBA, the Kentucky, and they're already funded programs. So a lot of people, they come to me, it's like, hey, how much is it? It's like nothing. You just have to go out and find them and they will help you. The funds are already there. So that's what, that's how I started the contracts with Universal Spartan. Matter of fact, I want to talk about one of my first contracts. It's like it was a Navy SEAL contract. That was like, they wanted all these products. And I was like, oh, I can do that. All of a sudden I put it in, 30 days later, I had the contract and I was like,
yes.
this is it. And no, it went back to like, no, this ain't
I have to imagine that having been in the military and then turning around, starting a business and providing products and service to the military or any part of the government has got to be a pretty special moment for you and your company. So that's great. I just want to clarify, you did mention SBDCs, that's the Small Business Development Centers. So for our audience, the Small Business Administration has 68 centers around the country, but we join in partnership with an external public-private partnership, an organization that has these small business development centers, oftentimes housed at universities or community colleges, and provide counseling and technical training and assistance for small businesses as well. So, very much related to this discussion, not only being a Latino small business owner, working on government contracts and just trying to grow your business, coming out of COVID, dealing with supply chain issues now. Oftentimes, one of our biggest challenges is access to capital. And there was a study done in 2021 by the Stanford Latino Entrepreneurship Initiative that said Latino small businesses are actually doing pretty well, all things considered. We're working on tech companies, we're hiring people, we're growing those businesses, and all of those metrics in many ways are outperforming the general population, except on one important factor, and that is access to capital. There still seems to be an impediment as a Latino business of finding capital, and whether that's through venture capital communities, whether that's through the traditional private sector banking industry, we're trying to understand why that is. And so I'd love to hear from the two of you what your experience has been in growing your business. Eduardo, maybe we'll start with you. What has been your experience raising capital? Of course, I would hope that you tell me your company's entirely self-funded, so you don't have any of these problems. But if that's not the case, what has been your journey as a Latino trying to raise capital?
So Coforma is entirely self-funded.
Look at you.
However, I will say that I've been in this space now long enough to understand some of the challenges that are faced by business owners in this space as they are attempting to raise capital to be able to hire personnel, develop infrastructure, and deliver services. And I will say that overcoming those challenges should not be one-sided. It should be two-sided. Not only should institutions that provide access to capital do a better job to remove historical barriers for underprivileged people to get access to capital, but people that are underprivileged should be more empowered to go out and seek that capital without giving up all of their business. So I have often seen where alternate sources of funding, such as VCs, will be like, sure, that's a good idea. We're going to take 10% of your business. That's just not acceptable, right? I have seen where banks will tell you, oh, we'll gladly lend you money. You just need to have 3 years worth of past performance. I literally just registered the business yesterday, right? So those things don't necessarily align. And then we see the burden that comes with requesting capital, and just the disparity in what is asked for. You see, financial institutions will ask you to provide a personal financial statement. They will also ask you to provide your last three filed taxes. They will also ask you for your personal taxes. If you have a partner, if you have a family, they will also ask you for your families. And depending on what area of expertise you have and the type of services, they will ask you that you guarantee the business by maybe putting on the line that little bit of equity that you have on your house. Like, that just doesn't seem right. And then on the other end, you have organizations that are much more nimble, such as VCs, that attempt to speak to how they can provide access to capital faster by using new and novel tools and techniques, such as the lean canvas in lieu of a business plan, essentially setting up new business entrants for failure because they are not able to then develop the network that they need, the support network that they need, in order to actually follow through on what to do when that capital is raised, when that capital is secured. So I think that, in my opinion, what we are seeing is a imbalance between those with funds and the access to support those that are seeking those funds.
Well, and I appreciate all of that journey. Of course, I compliment you on being an entirely self-funded business. If in the future, as you continue to grow and accelerate, whether that's the venture capital community or the private staking banking industry, what I've seen is a little bit of an evolution around, there are Latino VCs now. There's still very few, but Latino VCs, there are community development financial institutions or CDFIs. So you're starting to see the marketplace evolve a little bit, but of course it's still not enough. And so I think a lot of the items that you've talked about are so relevant to the real experience of so many Latino small businesses. Alejandro, similar question to you. Tell us about your journey in either raising money or financing your business. And did you find any particular barriers as a Latino in getting that done?
Yeah, I mean, again, we were talking about the different barriers from before, and Eduardo and you mentioned it before, but there were so many barriers out there. But the big thing is, of course, like I was saying, I started an online company, and that was pretty easy. The funding was self-funding, so it was pretty easy. But then all of a sudden we started getting into federal contracts, which it's intimidating sometimes when you have these contracts, 100, $1 million, and you're like, okay, where do I get all this money to do these contracts? So a lot of people don't do contracts because trying to have the capital for that. So, first of all, you got to determine, how much funding that you're going to need. It depends what you're doing. Fund your business with yourself. So now my company, we've been doing this since 2013, and just like Eduardo, we're a self-funding company now. But again, we went through all those headaches from before, trying to figure out how we're going to get this money to do these contracts. Also getting a venture capital and investors, getting a business loan, and big thing, it was more like a mentor, like a team that I had with the SBA, the SBDCs that we were talking about, the procurement technical assistance centers. And they were kind of like mentors to us, telling us exactly what we needed to do. And, they have a list, a timeline and a list of like, hey, here's what you need to do if you want to do federal contracts. And you got to follow that. But at the same time, there's other things that you got to maneuver and obstacles that you got to do with doing federal contracts. So it was that mentorship from the SBA, and then other mentors that we have, other veteran mentors and other mentors that want to help out veterans. So for example, I got my mentor, he actually was the one that told me, hey, look, you're doing this much in online sales, and then you're doing this much in federal contracts. It's like, you stop your online sales and just do federal contracts, and that's it. Yeah. And so that's what I did. Now I do 98% of my work is all with the federal government, 2% is retail, but everything is about 98%. But at the end of the day, you got to look at, the capital, whether if you're going to do that contract or not, because, the federal government, sometimes they pay us in 15 days if we're a small business, but most of the time it's 30 days. So now you got to look at, okay, I got to figure out what I do with these 30 days, especially
that's working capital needs there.
Yeah, especially if the manufacturer wants the money up front, he's not going to do anything until you pay him. You're like, okay, well, now how long is it going to take you to delivery? Which that's the other thing now with the lead times. It's like sometimes the lead times are 90 days. So what are you going to do with those 90 days? So it's complicated, but at the same time, those mentors, which are now teams of your company,
All right, so you mentioned mentor several times. Eduardo mentioned it as well. Let's wrap with the following question to the both of you as mentors. So let's assume you're sitting here, and in our audience we have Latinos who are either just starting a business or thinking about starting a business. So with your mentor hats on, what would you tell our young Latino small business owners or potential small business owners about your journey and what they need to think about as they delve into the world of being a small business owner? Eduardo, let's start with you.
Okay. So I think that the first thing that I would say is that the burden to launch a business can sometimes seem insurmountable. It is not. Stick with it. It will be worth it. It will be hard, but it will be worth it. A way to overcome some of the challenges to getting that work and having that recognition is by partnering with others, often called subcontracting. Finding other businesses that are more established, that are already doing the work, and doing some of that work. Listening, watching, learning as you grow and as you develop your own capabilities can be crucial to providing you as a small business owner with the past performance to, in a not so distant future, go after work on your own. Going after work on your own or becoming a prime contractor, if you're in the government contracting space, requires a lot of effort and investment, and that's often not discussed. The having to register for a universal number, getting business licenses and their registration, getting IRS employer identification numbers, registering on the different government business websites. Going through all of that takes a lot of time, and if you're able to start smaller and have a clear roadmap for what you will do when, now you're going to be in a space where you're going to become more profitable, faster, and have a better outcome as you move into your journey of entrepreneurship.
Excellent. Thank you, Eduardo. Alejandro, you got a minute. Give us your advice to a small business owner, Latino.
All right. So my goal is for all Hispanic-owned businesses to have their own leadership philosophy. My leadership philosophy, real quick, Spartan. It's an acronym. Say what you're going to do and do it. That's the big thing. That's what's going to gain you customers. That's what it's going to keep the customers. Number two, persistence. We talked about this. Eduardo talked about this. You have to be persistent. You can't just say, I'm going to do this, and then they say no, go on to somebody else. No, just stick with it. Always communicate and do your after action review. Talk to, your employees, your independent contractors. Communicate, and also communicate to the end users. Like we were talking about the lead times. Communicate. If it's going to be more than 90 days or 10 days, tell them about that. Reward every accomplishment with everything you do. Teamwork. Analyze every risk and mitigate it. And of course, the last thing is network. What we're doing here. Build that network of Hispanic-owned businesses and work together, subcontract. If you can't do this contract, maybe somebody else can help you with it, and have that teamwork and network.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you both. This brings us to the close of today's discussion, and I would like to thank our fantastic panel, Eduardo Ortiz, CEO of Coforma, and Alejandro Ramirez, owner of Universal Spartan, for taking the time to share their insights with our audience. It has been my privilege to moderate today's forum as we uplift Hispanic entrepreneurs in their quest to maintain and grow their businesses across America. As a reminder, this webinar has been recorded and will be available to you on the SBA's YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. But before we go, I'd like to invite you to attend our next Elevating Small Business Series event on Thursday, October 27th, where we will lift up disability employment awareness and how it may accelerate your business's success. And for more information about SBA services, I encourage you to visit www.sba.gov. Thank you all again. Gracias. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. Eduardo, Alejandro, well done. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.